You don't have any idea what the hell's going on, do you?
Next on Ebert and Roeper, Tom Cruise battles Philip Seymour Hoffman in Mission Impossible 3.
There's something evil here.
Donald Sutherland and Sissy Spacek in An American Haunting.
I'm on it.
Luke Wilson in the family film, Hoot.
Plus, an Oscar-nominated drama from one of our greatest directors in the Thumbs Up video segment.
Stand by to go live. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Execute.
Tom Cruise brings Ethan Hunt back to the big screen in Mission Impossible 3. I'm Richard Roeper.
And I'm Roger Ebert. Mission Impossible 3 once again sends Tom Cruise hurtling through non-stop high-tech action sequences held together by a plot that actually makes a little more sense this time, although not so much that you'd notice it. Before the action begins, Michelle Monaghan has the thankless role of Ethan's fiancée, who marries him during the movie's brief one quiet moment. She doesn't know the secret of his job and doesn't understand why he's always going on mysterious business trips.
What are you not telling me?
I need to ask you for something. It's the most... I need you to trust me.
Of course, a little later, she wishes she didn't know so much about Ethan's work. He's assigned to rescue a kidnapped agent, played by Kerry Russell, and confront a villain, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman. His assignment? Obtain the rabbit's foot. What is the rabbit's foot? The movie never says, and that makes it a MacGuffin.
You have a wife, girlfriend?
You were apprehended carrying details of the location of something codenamed the Rabbit's Foot.
I'm gonna make her bleed and cry and call out your name.
What is a Rabbit's Foot?
And I'm gonna kill you right in front of her.
Cruise's character is involved in life-threatening action scenes in Berlin, the Vatican City, Shanghai, and the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. In Shanghai, he parachutes off a skyscraper. Directed by J.J. Abrams, it doesn't have the visual style of the first two movies, directed by Brian De Palma and John Woo, but it delivers all the action you could possibly desire, and actually more action than I could possibly desire. I've basically seen this movie 3 times now, and I think twice was about enough. Non-stop action becomes non-stop sameness and repetition, and actually becomes rather boring after a while, so thumbs down.
I'm going to give it thumbs up, Roger.
Okay.
I think it's actually the best of the 3
The
for
best
some
of the
the
3.
reasons
Wow.
you're outlining. For one, yeah, I could actually keep up with the plot, although they're really into this whole thing where characters have masks and there's a big reveal. And even
You
characters...
would think by now,
They'd be
Ethan
always-
would figure
yeah.
out that it might be a latex mask.
that they would be going like this to each other all the time, just
Yeah,
checking for
yeah,
the masks.
yeah.
But actually, I think with J.J. Abrams doing a more linear approach, that the action sequences are more exciting. I mean, there's crazy stuff when they're breaking into the Vatican, and that's really clever. I do agree with you that there are actually too many action scenes. I wanted more of Philip Seymour Hoffman. If you're going to have, this Oscar-winning great actor as the villain, he should have as many scenes really as Ethan Hunt. There should be more back and forth like the great Bond villains.
What I'm trying to say in my review, and I hope people at home get this, is this delivers exactly what you're expecting.
Yeah.
And if that's what you want, you have my blessing.
I think it's a little bit better than that.
I'm kind of tired of it by
You're
now.
Mission Impossible out.
I think so, yeah.
And I think at some point, with the Michelle Monaghan character, I think she'd kind of figure out that it doesn't really work for the Department of Transportation. It's a pretty flimsy cover story. No. Okay, next is Hoot. It would be a nice little family film if not for the fact that the young heroes commit felonies in the name of saving the environment. This movie is based on the popular children's book by Carl Hyacin. He's a really, really good comic novelist whose villains are almost always businessmen bulldozing his beloved Florida. In this case, the bad guys are building a pancake house on land inhabited by cute little burrowing owls. Luke Wilson plays the bumbling local cop investigating serial vandalism on the site.
Just me in the night. A lone wolf, stalking his prey.
Logan Lerman plays Roy. He's the new kid from Montana who joins up with Cody Lindley's crusading rebel who has the unfortunate nickname of Mullet Fingers.
Get out of the way, kid! If you want to bury those owls, you gotta bury me too. Me too.
That makes 3 of us.
We will not let you kill these owls.
That's Clark Gregg. He's a gifted character actor saddled with playing a cartoonishly callous bad guy who insists on bulldozing the land even as the media and half the town look on. We're also sidetracked by scenes involving a school bully and a hippie school teacher played by Jimmy Buffett, who also produced the movie and provides the soundtrack. The young actors are just okay, while Wilson and Tim Blake Nelson, among others, really aren't given that much to do. Hoot is just too preachy for me, so thumbs down.
Thumbs down for me, too. And you know, this was made by the same people who made Holes, which is one of the best family movies and children's movies of the last 10 years.
You liked it more than I
in which
did.
the kids dug the holes. Now we have the owls. Actually, burrowing owls do not dig their own holes. They steal holes of other animals. Did you know that?
I did not know that, but thank
sometimes
you,
when they're
Dr.
really
Nature.
Sometimes when they're really hard pressed, they will dig a hole, but they'd rather avoid it. I wanted to know why they're building the. Yeah, this is true. Why are they building the pancake house in the middle of a wilderness with no highways around?
I know, it might have made more
you apparently
sense.
have to walk to get to the pancake house through the woods.
You know, why not put it on Main Street?
Yeah,
it seems
that
like
would
it would be. And this little town, they're awfully excited about having a pancake house. I've never heard people talk about pancakes like
Well,
it's the elixir of life.
it's
You
gonna
know,
bring
we're going to get
12 new jobs to town.
But didn't you think it was a little bit, I mean, over the top, Roger,
Yeah,
with
and
this
also
whole
the-
environment good, developers bad, you know?
And the mullet fingers guy, the little kid, not little,
The young boy.
young
He's
boy,
13, I
he
guess.
lives apparently in the woods, and he's kind of a cross between Huckleberry Finn and Tarzan. And yet he's a nice guy, but he kind of slips in and out of things, and is a freelance guerrilla, urban guerrilla environmentalist, and it's kind of hard to believe that.
Yeah, and the whole thing, too, there's all these musical montages with the two boys, and I'm like, is this thing going to go Brokeback on us, or what's going on here?
Now, later in the show, Edward Norton stars in Down in the Valley, and next, a controversial Oscar nominee in our Thumbs Up video segment.
What's going on, Grandma?
Doing a lot of quilting.
Looking at movies new on DVD, Glenn Close and Anne Hathaway voice Hoodwink, that got 2 thumbs down. Sarah Jessica Parker and Diane Keaton in The Family Stone, it got 2 thumbs up. And Queen Latifah and Gerard Depardieu in Last Holiday, that also got 2 thumbs up.
2 very big thumbs up.
The thumbs are very big, yes.
My first video pick this week is Steven Spielberg's challenging and thought-provoking Munich, an Academy Award nominee this year, which stars Eric Bana as the head of a secret Israeli revenge squad that goes after the terrorist who attacked and killed Israeli athletes at the 1972 Olympics.
Give me the source, and we'll let you take part.
Let us go to Beirut. After Beirut, we'll use our source to find the remaining targets. Let us do our job.
This week, I'm also recommending one of the best films of the French New Wave, Francois Truffaut's wonderful, heartwarming, great classic, The 400 Blows. Jean-Pierre Léaud stars as a troubled kid who negotiates the hazards of adolescence.
Monsieur le directeur, j'estime que la sanction doit être à la mesure.
Mais la mesure est dépassée, mon cher. Nous sommes dépassés par l'anomalie d'une telle faute. Seuls les parents ont pouvoir de sévir.
On s'expliquera tous les deux ce soir à la maison.
Truffaut actually made 4 more movies about that character named Antoine Daniel as he grew up and found himself, sort of. They're all available in the Criterion Collection.
Great stuff with Truffaut there and that character. It's sort of like when Philip Roth or other great novelists keep revisiting a character, or John Updike with Rabbit. I mean, it's just amazing stuff. Now, there's also another film from a few years after that, The Graduate, which also had that kind of, sensational cross-section, everybody talking about it thing. And my video pick this week, Roger, is Rumor Has It, with Jennifer Aniston as a young woman in 1997 who begins to believe that her entire family was the basis for the original novel, The Graduate, and that Kevin Costner is the Benjamin Braddock character, and Shirley MacLaine is her grandmother, and there's lots of twists and turns as she tries to figure out whether or not her real father is the man she thought was her father, who's played by Richard Jenkins, who's wonderful, or Kevin Costner. And I thought it was really funny and clever. I thought Shirley MacLaine was wonderful. I know a lot of people they didn't connect with it, they didn't check it out, but I think on video it's worth a try.
You know, it was intriguing that the Kevin Costner character potentially had sex with the grandmother, the mother, and the daughter. Yeah. Which is the trifecta,
if you will.
There you go.
Thank you, sir. Also want to recommend, it's not a great film, but I think as a timely DVD and certainly a curiosity factor, and it makes some interesting points, a little film called A Day Without a Mexican. And, with all the marches and rallies last week, we kept seeing the phrase, A Day Without Immigrants, and it's really a play on the title of this small film. It was first a 28-minute short, then it became a feature-length movie, and everybody wakes up in California one day, and all the Latinos are missing. And it's got some pretty clever, insightful things to say.
So, rumor has it, Munich and the 400 Blows will be in stores on Tuesday, and A Day Without a Mexican is available right now.
Hey, Tex, you want to check the oil? Yeah, I'm gonna do your windows too.
Right, that's quite a deal. Cowboy, man.
Well, I mean, we advertise full service, so we gotta give full service.
Edward Norton plays a deeply disturbed young drifter who is as persuasive as a con man when he meets those teenage girls, especially Tobe, played by Evan Rachel Wood, a rising young actress. Despite their age difference, they start dating and she falls for his cowboy act. He claims he worked as a rancher, but that and everything else he says is not very reliable. Her father, played by David Morse, is suspicious of him, but not very successful at controlling his headstrong daughter.
I hope to earn your trust in me.
Let's go.
Who is that guy?
I met him at the beach.
You met him at the beach. You met him at the beach.
They have those kinds of conversations that are about everything and nothing, and Norton is very effective at seeming to be a sensitive and poetic soul.
I wondered if that branch had a purpose. Maybe it's there to provide shade. Maybe it's gonna get cut down and make somebody a nice piece of furniture someday. Or maybe it's supposed to have a swing on it.
But I think the movie loses its way in the third act with a long sequence where Morse tries to single-handedly track the cowboy himself, and his reasoning doesn't seem realistic, and the little brother trusts the Norton character long after he ought to be suspicious. There are some wonderful moments in Down in the Valley, but I'm going to have to give it a reluctant thumbs down.
I'm not even reluctant about my thumbs down, Roger. Edward Norton is about as good as it gets for his generation. I think he's just a great actor, and everybody else is good. But David Morse, he's like the town sheriff, right? Now, a guy shows up, your daughter's...
No, he's a security guard.
Security guard.
Yeah.
He's some sort of law enforcement guy. Guy shows up at your door. Yeah, he's having a troubled relationship with his daughter, but she's, what, 16, I think, in this movie, and this guy's in his 30s. Don't you think he'd say, I'd like to see some ID and run a background check on this guy? And he just sort of, there's a lot of screaming and yelling, don't go see that guy, and then she, you know, she runs out with him. And all of the Western mythology and the symbolism with Edward Norton's character is laid on thicker and then thickest when they end up in that, you know, that old West town. And I just thought that was way, way over the top. So some good performances. I thought it was just way too much, too slow. And Evan Rachel Wood, who's a good young actress, has played this character in about 3 or 4 films now. And
well, you know, in the movie 13, you have a very convincing relationship involving a mother and a daughter and somebody from outside who comes into the family. This one, the outsider seemed to be too fanciful to really take seriously.
Yeah, I just think that all the problems in this film could have been solved really quickly if anybody just used a little bit of intelligence. There you go. Okay, later in the show, 2 films that are under the radar but deserve a spotlight. An American Haunting is said to be based on the only case in U.S. history where a spirit caused the death of a man. I think there were a few other cases where spirits were accused, but they were acquitted because they had really good lawyers. Whatever the facts, this is one of the more annoying, irritating, obnoxiously scary movies in recent memory. What a loud, dumb mess. Donald Sutherland plays John Bell. He's the patriarch of a Tennessee family circa 1820.
Go to hell, Kate Betts!
That's Rachel Hurd Wood as opposed to Evan Rachel Wood as the cursed Betsy, and Sissy Spacek playing the mother. They keep putting that poor girl in the bedroom even though she's terrorized night after night. When Betsy bunks with a friend, the special effects team, I mean the evil spirit, just seems to follow her. We saw a much more effective possessed girl based on a true story last year with The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Here we just get scene after scene of slamming doors and busted windows and little Betsy getting slapped around like Larry Fine in The Three Stooges. It's not the least bit frightening. And the big reveal about the nature of the spirit isn't surprising. It doesn't make sense. This is nothing but slick dreck.
I'm with you on this one, partner.
Thank you, sir.
You know, Donald Sutherland is such a wonderful actor. Remember him as the father in Pride and Prejudice last year?
He's always good. Always good, yeah.
He's good in this movie, but it's not worthy of his goodness.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
And I just hope that a movie comes along. I mean, I think he's got another Oscar nomination in him.
I hope so.
Maybe 2. Who knows? He's that good. And this is a major role, and it's a major movie, but it's just not the right material for him at this time.
No, and it's so obnoxious to say this is based on the only true case, and the explanation makes no sense that they have at the end of this movie. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Next up is a really strange movie named Killer Diller that's sort of lovable. As it begins, an auto thief, played by William Lee Scott, is assigned to a halfway house run by Fred Willard. The kid has a guitar, and Willard recruits him for the house band, which specializes in monotonous and droning versions of boring spirituals.
Wesley Benfield, you have been arrested 13 times.
Only 5 convictions. I got blamed for a lot of I did not do.
Watch your mouth. This is a house of the Lord. I will not tolerate foul language.
Then he meets a local musician played by Lucas Black, who may be autistic and is certainly gifted. There isn't a whole lot more to that to Killer Diller, but what there is works as comedy, works as music, and works as human interest. Lucas Black is fascinating as a musician on the edge of a mental breakdown, and the camaraderie of the band has a life of its own. Fred Willard is so often associated with comic roles, you smile when you see him, and it's intriguing to see him playing an essentially serious character here. And I like the music, especially the energy by Nikki Crawford as their lead singer. It's in limited release, but I hope it finds an audience. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up for me as well. Forget that TV show. Nikki Crawford is the real American Idol. Man, can she sing. And she's a great screen presence. And you're so right about Fred Willard. He's playing this guy who's running this sort of, halfway house, and all of his line readings are sort of like 1 octave too high. Hey, here's an idea, guys. You better get your chores done. I mean, he reads everything sort of like at that level. It's funny, and yet he's a real character. And I love the music. It's a good film.
Yes, it is.
And I got another one for you.
Okay, good.
Okay, very different film. It's called The Proposition. This is a gruesome Australian Western with biblical overtones and violence so brutal it's sometimes tough to look at the screen. This might be the darkest Western since Unforgiven. It's also filled with breathtaking cinematography, a hauntingly beautiful score by Nick Cave, who also wrote the screenplay, and just great work from Guy Pearce and Ray Winstone, Emily Watson, and John Hurt. So most of these stars are almost unrecognizable beneath layers of grime, sweat, blood, and swarming flies. Winstone plays Captain Stanley, who captures 2 of the notorious outlaw Burns brothers.
Suppose I gave you till Christmas. I suppose you tell me what it is I want from you.
You want me to kill me, brother?
I want you to kill your brother.
Danny Houston gives a chilling performance as the oldest, most ruthless Burns brother. He kills as easily as most men snap twigs. He prepares to ride into town to rescue his youngest brother and exact revenge.
Misanthrope is one who hates humanity.
Is that what we are? Misanthropes?
Good Lord, no. We're a family.
As the middle Burns, who was given the chance to atone for his sins by murdering his older brother, Guy Pearce has something of a moral awakening, but it's all relative here. There are no real heroes in The Proposition. I thought this was a nearly great film, so thumbs up.
I have the greatest respect for it, too, and thumbs up for me, too. I want to say 2 things about it. First of all, Danny Houston usually plays kind of a soft or victim kind of character.
Yeah, big bear of a best friend kind of guy.
And here he shows an entirely different side of his gift, and I think it's fascinating that he's truly scary here. The other thing is there's a novel called Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy, which has been called the most violent novel in American literature. And this is the first movie I've seen that suggested to me that Blood Meridian could also be made into a movie because it has some of the same notes, some of the same darkness and ruthless violence.
And you're aware right from the start, Roger, the opening shootout, just the sounds of the bullets and the way they hit flesh, this is a very different kind of violence than we see in something like, for example, Mission Impossible 3.
Oh, yeah, it has a
really intense
sense of time and place and desperation.
Absolutely.
We're going to recap this week's show right after this.
Tell me when you get a signal.
Okay, recapping the movies on this week's show, we split on Mission Impossible 3. 2 thumbs down for Hoot, 2 thumbs down for Down in the Valley, 2 thumbs down for An American Haunting, 2 thumbs up for Killer Diller, it's in limited release, and 2 big thumbs up for The Proposition.
And those last 4 movies are actually in limited release.
Gotta look for them.
I get emails from people saying those movies don't play in my town. Thank goodness for DVDs, because the distribution system in this country is just absolutely designed to turn every multiplex into an idiot's convention.
Well, we're working on it, though, and sometimes when we talk about it on the show and it's in limited release, it becomes a wider release.
Break, yeah. When we come back, another look at movies that are in theaters right now.
Let me guess.
Stuffed French Toast Delights down at IHOP?
It's stuffed French Toast Delights at IHOP. Banana, cinnamon apple, or a classic. Come in now. There's enough for everyone.
I've got a never-ending love for you.
Looking at movies now in theaters, Robin Williams and Jeff Daniels in RV got 2 thumbs down. Andy Garcia, Bill Murray, and Dustin Hoffman in The Lost City got 2 thumbs up. And John Malkovich and Max Minghella in Art School Confidential also got 2 thumbs up. It opens this weekend.
Okay, next week we'll be back with reviews of Kurt Russell and Josh Lucas in Poseidon and Lindsay Lohan in Just My Luck. Until then, the balcony is closed.